Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. We have a pipe bomber arrest that just took place. We're going to get into it. We've got a bunch of stuff queued up here. Reaction. There was a full press briefing that had everybody, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Jeanine Pirro, the judge. We've got it all queued up. We're going to break down who got arrested. The guy's name is Brian Cole. And we also have the criminal complaint that has now been filed, ready to review. And so it's queued up. You can see we're going to see what the criminal complaint has to say, what the affidavit has to say. And we want to compare and contrast this with some of the other evidence that we've already gotten in this case. Remember that not long ago, we were very concerned about some of the cell phone data that got corrupted. And apparently the cell phone data was working now and it's useful in the arrest of this dude. But we had this letter from Ron Johnson a while ago and the testimony from the former FBI, Stephen D'Antuono, who said there was no evidence. It was all corrupted, blah, blah, blah. So the question, of course, is do we have the actual pipe bomber? Is this the real guy? Is this a patsy? Is this some sort of a scapegoat? Is this somebody that they want to just shove in here who's got some mental defects or something and they're just going to make him the pipe bomber? Or is this the real dude? And if it is the real dude, what was the prior FBI doing and why did they not find him? Why were they covering it up? And so a lot to talk about today. We're very excited. We got Kash Patel. We've got him speaking here. We've got Jeanine Pirro. We've got Pam Bondi, a bunch of stuff queued up. Dan Bongino was out. And some information that we got to unpack here together. So we're still trying to piece together exactly who this dude is. We don't have a photo of him yet, but there are photos of him allegedly spreading around the internet. We'll see if we get any confirmation by the time that we are done here. But lots of information about exactly who this guy is. And so we're very glad that you're here. Thank you for joining our stream. Happy Thursday. Hope your week is unfolding beautifully. Thank you for subscribing to our channel and for joining us on this journey. We're grateful for you. And thanks for becoming members as well. We appreciate our members as well. We had a great members only stream this morning. We love our members. Thank you for joining as a member and supporting our work here and being a part of our amazing community. Now, let's get into business because we're excited about this one. January 6th pipe bomber now arrested. The alleged bomber. We got a lot of questions about this entire investigation and how we got to this moment 5 years later when we finally got somebody who almost allegedly blew up the RNC and the DNC on January 6th. Finally got some evidence that we got the guy. Kash celebrating says, you know, America, when Dan Bongino and I came to the FBI in March, the pipe bomb investigation had been stalled for going on 5 years. We know. We rebuilt it from scratch, rerunning every lead, retesting every piece of evidence, bringing in top experts and deploying new technology to engineer the break that finally nailed the suspect. Today is the result of that outstanding work. We didn't need new evidence. So there's no new tip that came in. Nobody's getting that $500K apparently. But it's new technology that they deployed. Now, today is just the result of that outstanding work. And President Trump is willing to let good cops be cops, Kash's catchphrase. I'm extremely grateful to Bongino, Washington Field Office, Bondi, Pirro, and every partner who helped deliver this win. This is a focused, rebuilt FBI delivering results for the American people. So that's over from Kash. And of course, we've got all of the other documents queued up here, but here is what the press briefing sounded like. When Pam Bondi came out this morning, you can see the entire crew was out and Kash is looking pretty proud, I will say. Look, our shoulders a little extra tall today. Here's Pam and the team.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Pam.
As you all know now, early this morning, Brian Cole Jr. was arrested and charged with placing the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC on January 5th, 2021. He has been charged with violating 18 U.S.C. 844, which is use of an explosive device. This investigation is ongoing. As we speak, search warrants are being executed, and there could be more charges to come. I'm going to let our U.S. attorney discuss that shortly.
Okay, so pausing on that. So this entire time, we are cognizant of the fact that there is going to be more evidence that is coming down. They raided this dude's house. So the evidence that's presented in the indictment and what we know thus far, I'm sure is just the tip of the iceberg. So any questions or speculation that we have are all done with that caveat, knowing that they raided his house. So they're probably going to go get his laptop and all of his online accounts, and his family will have statements and all the things. So they're going to get more. Even if what we have now feels pretty light, you always need to kind of just get a foothold on the case, charge. You might even find that this guy, they get his DNA and they're like, oh, it's all over the pipe bomb. Weird. He was like licking it or something. Right. So connect the dots. I don't think there was any DNA found on the pipe bombs, but you get the point, right? Some other evidence might come that is forensic that actually connects the case. So here's more of Pam.
This was the work of multiple agencies working together. This morning's operation was carried out safely and successfully.
Nice.
We know that there are so many issues when you're issuing search warrants.
True.
Dangerous things can happen, and this was carried out safely and securely thanks to all of the people standing around me. They have worked tirelessly on this. Today's arrest happened because the Trump administration has made this case a priority. The total lack of movement on this case in our nation's capital undermined the public trust of our enforcement agencies.
Yeah, because we thought it was a cover-up. We thought it was Liz Cheney. She's like 5 foot something, so we thought it was her, but apparently not.
This cold case languished for 4 years until Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino came to the FBI. The FBI, along with U.S. Attorney Pirro and all of our prosecutors, have worked tirelessly for months, sifting through evidence that had been sitting at the FBI with the Biden administration for 4 long years.
Losers.
Let me be clear. There was no new tip. There was no new witness. Just good, diligent police work and prosecutorial work, working as a team, along with ATF, Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police Department, and of course, the FBI. We are working every day to restore the public's trust. We hope that today is a significant step towards that progress. We'll share more information when we can and when it unfolds. I cannot stress enough how hard Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino have worked for months to make our nation's capital safer and to make our country safer.
And if they got this guy and he is the pipe bomber, it is a huge win. There's no debating that. Cash, Dan, Pam, Janine, right? All the people that were like, well, we're a little bit, come on, guys, like, here, a little cattle prod, like, do something, move. This would be a big one, especially given the fact that the Christopher Wray FBI and the Biden FBI didn't find him. And the pipe bomber was really kind of the tentpole of the whole J6 scam, right? First of all, practically deviated the cops from the building. But in addition to that, then they said that this was, an orchestrated coup. There was a pipe bomb there. Trump and, his insurrectionist mob was there to try to blow up buildings. And we just averted a disaster by the hair on our chinny chin chins. And so Pam is out, setting, style aside. Her substance is right. I mean, if they sat on this for 4 years and 5 years, it is a nice feat for a new set of eyes to come in here and actually track this dude down. So Cash came down and he explained a little bit more about this. He posted this and shared this article. He says, the FBI team rebuilt an entire investigation, reworked the evidence, deployed new tech, and executed a plan that finally brought the pipe bomb suspect into custody. Says Bongino led from the front and our agents delivered. This is the FBI doing its job relentlessly and without excuses. And he shares this article over from the New York Post, which has been doing some good reporting on this, over from Caitlin Dombos. 500,000 reward, untouched. Oh, Steve Baker, bummer. Trump administration investigators nabbed the pipe bomb suspect called Brian Cole. No public tips, just good old-fashioned police work is what they said. So no 500 G's going out to anybody, but they cracked the case is what they say. And so you can see this is the residence that just got absolutely ransacked today, via search warrant, so legally. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot more evidence in there. And if not, that's going to be indicative of something. So they examined every piece of information available to break through didn't come from new tips. It came from us just looking back at the case files. Says Patel said they spearheaded the investigation, gave credit to Trump. There was a full press conference today. Still trying to learn more about it. Cash, of course, was out talking as well. Some more scenes, photos from the scene. People here in hazmat suits. Kamala was right in the area. Patel said that he launched an investigation as soon as he came to office, and we have now delivered. So from Cash, here is what he also had to say from the press briefing today.
And came to this conclusion today. And that is why we were able to safely secure this individual into custody. Remember, we are dealing with an individual who is alleged to have made bombs. We cannot do this sort of takedown in haste because it endangers the lives of law enforcement. And this FBI will never allow the lives of law enforcement and our prosecutors to be put in jeopardy. This execution was flawless in terms of teamwork, resilience, and just a good old-fashioned way of police getting the job done. When you let good cops be cops, this is what happens. I'm eternally grateful to the team behind us.
All right, so there was a lot of that at the press briefing. Not a lot of information about how they came to find this guy, but a lot of, we did a great job arresting the guy. So once we found him, then the operation went amazing. Can you tell us about anything else? No. But he didn't blow us up with pipe bombs when we knocked on his door. So that's always good news. So that's from Cash. We also saw Jeanine Pirro was out today, and she gave us a little bit more details. And of course, we've got the criminal complaint coming up, and we're going to go through that in extensive detail. But she's explaining that they basically backtrace this to some purchases at different stores. End caps, wires, steel wool, 9-volt batteries, all the things.
Individual. This case involved millions of pieces of data, and it is a huge win because it was like finding a needle in a haystack. For example, there were 233,000 black end caps of the type that were used in this case. I want you to think about the fact that the FBI had to go through the sale of every one of them to try to find commonality with an individual, along with the purchase of the pipe itself, the cap ends, the wires, the steel, and the 9-volt batteries. Every one of those had to be mined and remined to the point where we were able to then connect. And make no mistake, it was this administration, it was this president who made the decision that we were going to use all of our efforts to get it done. And get it done, they did.
That's right. Judge Jeanine Pirro. Is she like 4 foot tall? I didn't know that. But they got it done over here. They got an arrest in place. So now it's going to be off to her and the DC courts, which we'll go through in a minute. But Dan Bongino hitting the roundup just to make sure we get the full crew. We got Dan Bongino. He was out, and here's what he had to say. Highlight from the press briefing earlier.
We've been working on for a very long time. We deeply appreciate it. Thank you for the kind words, Attorney General and Director. I appreciate it. Folks, this is what it's like when you work for a president who tells you to go get the bad guys and stop focusing on other extraneous things not related to law enforcement. This is what happens. We had a great team.
Like pronouns.
I know it's said a lot in this business. It was a team effort. It becomes cliche, but cliches are useful for a reason because they matter. And this was a team effort. The director and the attorney general emphasized that it was not a new public tip this came from. This was our internal work at the FBI. And we've been working.
So not a new tip, but just looking at the files and actually trying for once. So Brian Cole is the name of the suspect. Let me hit a refresh over here to see if we got a photo yet. Nobody's publishing the photo, so we're being cautious about that today. But there are photos of what they say is a black man who is out there, who is a suspect or somebody named Brian Cole. But we'll wait to see if it's confirmed or not. But Cole was busted on Thursday, and apparently they're looking into something of an anarchist background, writings and leanings, though specifics were not immediately known. Anarchists. Huh. You mean like Antifa-kist or something? So, bunch of photos from out at the scene. We've seen many of them. Authorities say Cole was the man caught on camera skulking around the Capitol before he left viable explosive devices. We've got the full complaint and more coming up. But here's what the news is reporting. And this is also interesting. His distraught grandmother, called Loretta, she denied his involvement. Now listen to this. describing him as, quote, autistic-like. Huh. With no political leanings. So it's an autistic kid, autistic-like-ish, from Grandma Loretta. He's almost autistic-like because he doesn't understand a lot of stuff. I hope he's not talking, she said. The Post called her, said he's very naive. He would not hurt a fly. He's not that kind of a person. I don't believe this at all. He's not a terrorist, said Grandma. That's what all grandmas say. What a nice lady, Loretta. But that's a strange thing to say. So they go find some autistic kid who doesn't know anything of anything, or maybe they framed him or something, but it's an autistic-like person. That makes me go, okay, that's not good, because that adds some complexity to the criminal prosecution. And it's always interesting. It's always like these one-off people, just like, weird. So anyways, she said he works at their family bail bonds company, Brian Cole Bail Bonds, which was raided by the FBI as well. Neighbors outside the suburban Woodbridge, Virginia home said he shunned social interactions and often walked a chihuahua to a local 7-Eleven. He's very antisocial, a neighbor told the Post. He would never make eye contact, almost like he just didn't see you, noted another person. He was skeptical about Cole being the suspect. Like, why is this dude going to travel around to D.C. if he's antisocial and walk around the streets? Claiming the man seen planting the pipe bombs is taller than Cole. The neighbor came out and said, that guy that I know that walks the dog is pretty short, and he has real short legs, like uncommonly short legs. I would think that a gait analysis would be pretty easy to either rule him in or out or confirm because his legs are, I would say, uncommonly short as he's walking around. The resident noted Cole stood out for wearing red Crocs and shorts all winter long. And someone else said, Loretta said, my grandson rarely leaves the house, okay? He only goes out for groceries and work. He's just a gentle person. Asked if her grandson was in D.C. on January 5th, Grandma Loretta said, well, I don't know. He was doing DoorDash for a while. Oh. He doesn't have any ties to D.C. I don't even know how they included him in this. Well, we're going to find out. So very, very interesting. Now, we're going to look into the records that were filed against him, the charges, the complaint, and the affidavit, and they're going to use a lot of cell phone data to make the connection. Could it be because he was driving through the area on a DoorDash? We'll have to wait and see till we get to the complaint. But another report over from the New York Post says he was arrested on Thursday morning, 30 years old, Brian Cole Jr. FBI had been embarrassed for 5 years on this. It was not immediately clear what charges he would face, but we have them now. Some more photos of the search warrants being executed. Someone else said, a woman that said she lived in the neighborhood for decades told the Post, they're out there knocking on doors, saying he's very antisocial. He keeps to himself. And it's a cul-de-sac, shunned interaction, doted on a pet chihuahua. He has a dog that he loves. He walks every day, twice a day to 7-Eleven with his dog, and he wears his headphones. He seems very quiet, never make eye contact, and probably the same neighbor that we talked about earlier. But here's the whole neighborhood. And I guess he gets in a car. Surveillance footage showed a person was wearing a backpack, gray hooded sweatshirt, viable explosive devices. Someone else said extremely short legs. And now he's been arrested. So seeking information, there are the shoes, there's the pipe bomb. Here's some more photos. We've been covering this for years now. So we're asking, was it him? Is he autistic? Was he just driving around in a DoorDash? Is the FBI scrambling to find somebody because they don't want anyone else who's been identified to be the actual conclusive bomber? So, of course, we'll continue to see. Washington Post is reporting on this, saying they arrested this dude. 3 people familiar with the matter. Suspect is Brian Cole, investigating a motive, but everybody's trying to dig in on this. The indictment was the complaint was also absent on this, but described as an extremist in his political beliefs. We'll see what kind of extremist, hopefully soon. FBI said the bombs were capable of injuring people. The lack of arrests has led to a bunch of conspiracy theories. Dan Bongino was out. FBI repeatedly denied any allegations of wrongdoing. Yeah. And the DNC came out and they said, we're glad that this guy got arrested. Those responsible should be brought to justice. The DNC responded to that. All right, so we got some good background on it. Still no photo of this guy. So the Daily Mail was doing a deeper dive into who is Brian Cole. And as I said, there are photos around, but I can't confirm that they're actually him. And they haven't found one either. In an affidavit released, images on social media circulated all over the place. It comes weeks after the FBI offered $500,000. He's been accused of laying explosives. And of course, what we would really like to see is video of this guy walking. Okay, I'd like to see a photo of him, but I'd like to see him walking. And we could just compare and contrast it with the pipe bomber walking around DC. Now, agents tracked down the purchasers of battery connectors and ended up going after him. The story was originally broken this morning by this guy, Ken Delanian. Not much new in this article, but the lineage of this is also pretty weird because Ken Delanian is Fusion Ken. He gets leaks from the intelligence communities all the time. So the fact that the story was broken this morning, essentially, he got the original tips on this, raised everybody's eyebrows. They're going, what? Ken, Fusion Ken, that guy who was helping to facilitate the entire Crossfire Hurricane Russia collusion hoax, he broke the story. And so everybody goes, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. Now, Thomas Massey responding to Scott Adams on this. Scott Adams said, I wonder if this will turn into a lone wolf narrative. Obviously it will, right? Massey says, if it is a lone wolf narrative, I'm not buying it. And more from Thomas. Kyle Seraphin was out. Kyle Seraphin working with the Steve Baker crew over at The Blaze. He says this is also pretty weird. You know, okay, so for 4 years, the FBI had their thumbs up their booties. For 9 months, the new FBI had their thumbs up their booties. Then Steve Baker comes out. He breaks the story wide open. Then CBS News comes out. They debunk the story because the other woman was playing with puppies. Okay. And then CBS News, Fusion Ken, he breaks the new arrest story. Whoa. Is that what's happening? Thomas Massey says, let's see what they've got. I'm not buying it from Thomas Massey. So, of course, we'll see as the case develops. But Fox News also had a report on this. Male living in Virginia. They're all going out knocking on doors, just kind of parsing through to see what exists. That's from Fox News, much of the same stuff. But this was an interesting video. So this dude did a drive-by. Nick Sorter shared this video. I'm not sure if he did the drive-by or not, but actually just drove by that cul-de-sac. And here is what the scene looked like as this person was driving through.
Caesar Squad has confirmed the address. News crews starting to show up.
Cul-de-sac totally blocked. News
Caesar
everywhere.
Squad.
So full response over there. Now, as that search continues, I'm sure they're going to just come back with gobs of evidence. Gobs of evidence. So somebody in the chat is saying not a black man. So I might be wrong on that, which is why we're not sharing the photo. But that is being spread around. People, very common name, Brian Cole Jr. So lots of photos being spread around there. Don't know exactly the ethnicity or what, but there are photos of a black man all over X right now, just to be clear about that. So we're, of course, going to keep our eye on that. Once we get more information on the details, we'll be back with more. But let's get into the documents, okay? With all of that background here, let's take a look at the charges and the affidavit. The alleged J6 pipe bomber now arrested. We've got the charging documents here, the criminal complaint, and more ready to go through, courtesy of the DOJ and the FBI. They made an announcement today on X from the FBI. They said Brian J. Cole Jr. of Woodbridge, Virginia, was arrested this morning and charged for transporting and planting 2 improvised explosive devices, IEDs, on J5 2021 at the headquarters of both the Republican National Committee and the DNC. Cole was apprehended after a nearly 5-year investigation by Washington and its partners. You can read more in the FBI press release in conjunction with the DOJ. Charged in a complaint today, unsealed, with transporting an explosive device in interstate commerce with the intent to kill. Now, joining in the announcement, Bondi, Cash, Dan, Darren Cox, many others. We listened to some of their press briefing, and according to the complaint, which we'll read in a minute, he purchased multiple components consistent with the manufacture of the 2 pipe bombs. They give us a full set of details here, but we're going to go right into the document and get into the juicy bits. But this is what the case docket looks like, and a couple of quick points before we actually get into the substance. The case is now, of course, filed in the District of Columbia. J6 happened right there. And the case has been assigned to Makshila Upadhyay. Pretty sure that's how you say her name. And guess who appointed her? Yeah, Joe Biden did in 2022. And guess where this judge was born? India. Just like another foreign-born judge that are all over our country who come in, handle some of the most highly sensitive cases on the planet, decide they're the president, decide that they can demand $50 billion of a budget, get handed out, whatever they want. Okay, they run the country. So she's from India. Now she's going to be handling this case. Now, another interesting development here came courtesy of Kyle Cheney over on X. And he said the prosecutor who is assigned to this case, and this is an interesting one, is this woman called Jocelyn Ballantine. Okay, you see Judge Janine Pirro right there working in her office is a prosecutor who's been there for a long time. Jocelyn Ballantine is now handling the case. And Jocelyn, guess what she used to work on? Oh, the Proud Boys prosecution. Yeah, so she charged them with seditious conspiracy, the Proud Boys. She's still at the DOJ. And she's now handling the pipe bomb case, which is interesting. So she led a prosecution for seditious conspiracy against the Proud Boys, which was a fake prosecution. In my opinion, it was a total ram job. They needed to get anybody convicted of something bigger than just like a, trespass crime or parading in the Capitol crime. They needed seditious conspiracy. So they made them up. They made them up for the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. We covered the trials here. They were a joke of a trial. The Proud Boys were outnumbered by the defense, like 10 to 1. The defense attorney said, we identified 50 people that we think were law enforcement, federal agents, or confidential human sources, or whomever. And there were 5 Proud Boy defendants. So it's like 10 to 1. Anyways, she's still at the DOJ for whatever reason. And when I was doing some research on her earlier in the day, it's interesting. I think she might still be around because there was some argument from the left when she was prosecuting the Michael Flynn case. She's been around forever. Prosecuting Michael Flynn, the lefties were saying Trump ally Jocelyn Ballantine is going to screw that case up. So they were mad at her back then. Then she prosecuted the Proud Boys. So now we're mad at her. Now we're wondering what the hell she doing at the DOJ if she was prosecuting a fake prosecution on why is she still there? I don't know. Judge Janine Pirro knows more about her than we do. Prosecutors, as usual, they get into their little prosecutorial powers and they don't want anybody to know anything about them. They delete everything on the internet. Nobody knows anything about them because they're much more comfortable hiding in the gutters of the government. So anyways, she's going to be prosecuting this case. She just submitted this document. The prosecutor listed on the docket, Ballantine, oversaw the prosecution of the Proud Boys on J6. So now she gets another J6 case. This time it's the pipe bomber. All right, so all of that background leads us to the actual charging documents, the criminal complaint. Very short filing right here, just a short complaint. We'll see the affidavit that is attached with the complaint coming up. But we've got 2 charges right here. And it's interesting because they're 2 different subsections. So as you can see on January 5th, they say this guy, Brian J. Cole, maybe the DoorDasher, the autistic DoorDasher, according to grandma, he charged with 2 counts, 18 U.S. Code 844D and 18 U.S. Code 844I. And pretty sure I queued those up here for our perusal right here. So we've got D and I. D right here, according to the code, if you transport or attempt to transport in interstate commerce any explosive with the knowledge or intent that it will be used to kill, injure, or intimidate any individual, you shall be in prison for not more than 10 years. So 1 count for, I guess, maybe both bombs. Let's see what I says. We scroll down. We got GHI. Whoever maliciously damages or destroys or attempts to damage any building, any attempt to damage, shall be imprisoned for not less than 5 years. Okay, so we've just got 1 count. There were 2 bombs. So I'm wondering why we don't have 1 count for each. Like 1 count would be for the transport. Okay, like for 1 bomb. 1 other bomb would be an attempted malicious destruction. So 1 bomb at the RNC, count 1. Attempted to destroy the RNC, count 2. Count 3, bomb at the DNC. Count 4, attempt to destroy the DNC, right? Transporting the bombs to the location. So we got 2 counts. I'm kind of wondering, we had 2 sets of bombs in 2 locations. So I'm not sure why they didn't charge them for both of those or articulate that more clearly, but let's see what the affidavit has to say. All right, so we got that. We saw the case has been signed off on by judge from India, Biden's judge from India, Upadhyay, I think is how you say it. And we also have, in addition to that, the affidavit. So here we get into the meat and potatoes of the charges. Filed here in court 12/3/2025 in the case against the alleged pipe bomber, Brian Cole. Says, I am a special agent with the FBI, and I have been so employed since 2009. Now, and again, this FBI agent is saying this is the dude, so we don't know who he is. I'm sworn in here and deposed, and maybe he's an amazing FBI agent. Or maybe not. I'm a special agent with the FBI, been around since 2009. I'm an investigative officer. I'm empowered to conduct investigations. I've got extensive training. During my employment, I've done a bunch of things, terrorism and domestic and international. These investigations have given me experience in preparing court orders, in search warrant applications. I've done a lot of interviews. I've debriefed informants. I've done a lot. Now, this affidavit is being submitted in support of a criminal complaint alleging Brian J. Cole Jr. has transported in interstate commerce an explosive with knowledge or intent that it will be used to kill, injure, or intimidate any individual or damage or destroy any property. 844D. So an explosive, so I guess they're going to bundle up the 2 bombs into an explosive, and has maliciously damaged and destroyed and attempted to damage and destroy the RNC and the DNC in violation of 18 U.S. Code. So they're lumping them into one. Now, the affidavit is based on my personal knowledge, information provided to me and others, and more. And so this is not everything, only what I think is necessary for probable cause right now. So in other words, once we get this going, then we're going to go raid his house, execute the warrant, get all of his cell phone data, gobble up all the text messages, get a DNA sample, and cross-reference all of the information. They write, background. We discovered the pipe bombs on January 6th at approximately 1 p.m. on January 6th, right at the perfect time to distract the cops away from the Capitol. Multiple law enforcement agencies got reports of an IED in the vicinity of the RNC, 1 p.m. At 1:15 on the same day, a second IED was reported just a few blocks away in the vicinity of the DNC. And these are prosecutors submitting, this is an FBI agent submitting this affidavit. The RNC and the DNC are national organizations. They engage in activities on a national level on behalf of their respective political parties, including getting money, soliciting donations. Each organization is used in interstate commerce. They've got money coming in from all over the country. Now, the hazardous devices section of the U.S. Capitol responded, and they performed a render safe procedure on both devices. Subsequently, the FBI assessed that the 2 devices were both IEDs. They did contain a main explosive charge, a fusing system, and a container. The FBI also assessed that the IEDs used a hard metal container, which was a metal pipe nipples and end caps, which showed that the weapon characteristics were present. The FBI recovered the components of the disrupted devices. They blow them up, then they recover them. These components were processed as evidence and submitted to the FBI lab for analysis. We issued a report about the 2 devices. We read through that here. Very detailed report, had cutouts and cross-sections of everything, opining that the items were 2 destructive devices and that the use of a hard metal container showed that weapons characteristics were present. Assessing all of it, these IEDs were more commonly known as pipe bombs. Both IEDs were manufactured using a collection of component parts and a main explosive charge. The component parts included a 1-inch by 8-inch pipe, so like 1 inch in diameter by 8 inches long, end caps affixed to the pipe, 14-gauge electrical wire in red and black alligator caps, so the clips, to connect the wires, and a 9-volt battery, another 9-volt battery connector, so clip it on the top, a white kitchen timer, the tick, 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 paper clips, steel wool, and homemade black powder. And I do believe that we may have that document queued up that showed some of this. This was from the House report. And to save some of the scrolling, this was from the House committee report. And they gave us some details on this. Let's see here. So they walk us through. This is the full report. And then they give us some of the pipe bomb stuff. Where is that? Sorry for all the scrolling over here. Thought it was this document, but maybe it's not. Yeah, well, kind of here it is. All right, so here's another image. So here's what we're looking at. Okay, this is the 1-inch pipe, 8 inches long, the end caps. We've got the alligator clips right there. We've got the kitchen timer and some more connectors. Not seeing the 9-volt battery right there, but very rudimentary. And of course, it looks like it's like a 60-minute timer. So how is it going to trigger the next day? More alligator clips, same pipe bomb. All right, so that's what we're talking about for a visual image of that. Now we go back to the complaint, and here we are. Now, review of the video surveillance footage from the evening of J5 shows that the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC were placed by the same person. That person was observed on video surveillance footage at various locations in the surrounding neighborhood between 7:34 and 8:18. And the prior FBI was trying to trace this dude back through the metro after he left and they lost him. And the other end, the bookend, is when did he show up and how, can we backtrace how he got there? And we've had questions about both of those things for a long time. Now, in video surveillance, the individual was wearing dark pants, a gray hooded sweatshirt, dark gloves, Nike Air Max Speed Turf shoes, and a face mask that obscured the person's face. The surveillance footage shows the individual adjusting eyeglasses at times. The video footage also shows the individual carrying a backpack. Now, footage shows this person traveling on foot through the surrounding neighborhoods of the RNC and the DNC, including portions of the route of travel between the two locations. And they just went around, like did loop-de-loos. Through video surveillance, the FBI recreated the individual's path of travel, including timestamps, with the location along the route. The individual placed the bomb at the DNC at 7:54 and the RNC at 8:16 on January 5th. And going back to this report, they'll show us the little loop-de-loos that this person was doing as they were dropping these bombs off right over here. So FBI, they've already got this in their files. Okay, this is a report that came over from the House Republicans that was investigating this. So they're following this dude. And you can see just kind of walking all over the place, doing loops over here, and sits on the bench. The DNC's right here in this blue dot. The RNC's right here in this pink dot. So they tracked him. Okay, he's walking all over the place. Again, he leaves at some point at 8:22, 8:17, they say, and is gone. Just like gone. And of course, how does he get there? How does he arrive? Like, where does he come from? He just appears and then disappears. He's like a magical man. It's amazing. So then we get more from the complaint. They say in January 21, Christopher Wray's FBI was on this. The FBI conducted a reverse projection photogrammetry examination. Wow. A reverse projection photogrammetry examination. You know what that's called? A height analysis. Great job. Of the individual depicted in the video surveillance footage. The height analysis showed that the approximate distance from the ground to the top of this dude's head was 5 feet 7 inches with an error rate of plus or minus 1.1. So, okay, great. Got it. Got some info on the background. Now let's connect the dots. Let's connect it to Brian Cole. They tell us that he's a 30-year-old resident of Woodbridge, Virginia. He's 5 feet 6 inches tall. Shout out to all the short kings out there. And Cole wears corrective glasses. Now, Cole lives in a single family house with his mother and other family members, maybe even Grandma Loretta, who said he's autistic and did DoorDash. Cole works in an office of a bail bondsman in Northern Virginia. And I've seen some reporting that they do immigration bonds. So they're like releasing ICE people. Not sure what that has to do, as a motive, but maybe it does. We'll see. Now, here's the purchase. They say the FBI has identified 1 bank checking account and 6 credit cards, aka the accounts that were used by Cole. The FBI obtained records for the checking account and 3 credit cards for the time period between 2018 and 2021. And so again, this guy's 30 right now, but about 4 years ago, he's probably 35, 36. I'm sorry, 25, 26 if he's 30 now. And so he's already got 6 credit cards racked up on his name. 3 additional credit cards were obtained for the time periods between 18 and 25. So a guy has like 9 credit cards. The FBI reviewed the transaction history for all of these accounts. During 19 and 20, so about a full year or maybe 2 years, like is it during all of 2019 and during all of 2020, Cole, so 2 full years, Cole purchased multiple items consistent with the components that were used to manufacture the pipe bombs. So consistent with is similar to, okay? They're not, in other words, confirming that he bought the items that were the pipe bombs. He bought similar items that are consistent with the same items. So Cole used the accounts to purchase these items from physical retail locations in Northern Virginia, as described in more detail below. Here's the background. Both pipe bombs were manufactured using galvanized pipe. And I used to install swimming pool heaters, and we would use galvanized pipe to connect the natural gas lines into those. So I bought many, pieces of pipe like that size to just kind of jimmy up back into the back of the heater. Says product labeling here says Cole purchased a total of 6 galvanized pipes of this size and shape on or about June 1, June 8th, and November 16, 2020. The purchases were made at 2 different Home Depot locations. According to the pipe manufacturer, approximately 26,000 of these were sold in 2020. Over 22,000 of these were sold at Home Depot. So 3 different days, he goes in, buys some galvanized pipe. Both pipes were manufactured using end caps, which were used to close the ends of the 8-inch pipe. Yeah, it's a cap, just close it off. The pipe bombs placed outside the RNC, they contained a mix of both black and galvanized end pipes. The end caps had markings consistent with the pipe manufacturer's product labeling. He purchased a total of 12 black end caps and 2 galvanized end caps from the 4 different Home Depots in Northern Virginia. And that difference there is just kind of the finish on the pipe. And if we scroll back down, maybe we can even see them. There's black pipe, which you shouldn't be using in any water applications because it will rust. And then you have the galvanized pipe. Yeah, interesting. So that looks like a black pipe end cap, but that looks like a galvanized pipe end cap right there. So that's galvanized, but that's black. So the galvanized stuff should do better with water and other materials, but the black pipe will not. But if you're not using it for any specific application, right? If you're just kind of like hobby something, like I made a trebuchet out of PVC pipe, right? I bought a bunch of PVC pipe and end caps and all the things for a high school project. So you buy all these weird things to launch a trebuchet, and you don't need them to be consistent. So is he doing projects, or is he installing swimming pool heaters or something? Who knows? Is he fixing his irrigation? Or what? But that is a connection right there. So he's buying 2 types of pipes. I think that's pretty unusual. If you're like a plumber and you're doing galvanized piping, you're not going to mix and match your end caps. So the fact that he went there and bought 2 different end caps, and those 2 different end caps showed up on the in the actual bombs, I think is actually interesting. So here, 4 different Home Depots, 2 galvanized end caps, and 12 black end caps in Northern Virginia on the following dates. So separate dates. So like the whole timeline would be interesting to assemble. So June 1, June 8th, he goes back, October 22nd, March 10th, June 20th, July 8th, and November 16th. This dude's buying a bunch of these. Did they recover them? Did they find all of these at his home? According to the pipe manufacturer, approximately 233,000 of these, huge numbers, were distributed in 2020, and 179,000 of those were over in Home Depot. So lots of people can have end caps. Now, both pipe bombs were manufactured using a 9-volt battery connector with attached red and black wires. The 9-volt battery connectors using the pipe bombs had identifying information on the black and red insulated wires that were consistent with those distributed in North America. There's a company called 9-Volt Distributor. Cole purchased 5 of those 9-volt battery connectors from Micro Center in November and December 2019. Okay, January 6th was 2021. So those are old, including cash purchases made during the December transaction. Fewer than 8,000 of those, that's a smaller number than 225,000, of those 9-volt battery connectors were distributed between 17 and 21. So not a lot. Both pipe bombs were also manufactured using a white kitchen-style timer. He purchased 2 of those from Walmart. He buys 2, they find 2, right? On June 3rd, he bought those in 2020. Now, both pipe bombs used a mix of 14 gauge red and black electrical wire. He purchased 14 gauge electrical wire in red and black on May 23rd and October 2019. Again, 2 years really before, year and a half before. And again on September 7th, October 7th, and November 2020. His purchases of the red and black wire were also made from one Home Depot and one Lowe's, again in Northern Virginia. Both pipe bombs were packed with steel wool. He purchased steel wool from Home Depot in Northern Virginia on or about December 4, 2020. Now, in addition to purchasing these components used to make the bomb, he also purchased equipment that would facilitate the manufacturing of the bomb. He bought safety glasses in 2020, a wire stripping tool on November 14, 2020, getting closer and closer to the J6 date. Wire nuts, which you use to join the wires together, November 14th. Sandpaper, November 21. A machinist's file, a tool for shaping and smoothing metal parts on or about November 21. Okay, this is now after the election. So now maybe you can see some motivation is happening. Okay, everybody's got a pair of safety glasses. If you got any tools, a wire stripping tool, most people will have that in their kit, but maybe some of these other things. Okay, election comes and goes, November. Tuesday hits. This guy says, oh gosh, Biden just won. And Trump's contesting all of this. So I'm going to go blow up the Capitol or something. But you start to see an acceleration. He buys sandpaper. He buys a machinist tool to maybe, he drills the hole to insert the wires and then shaves it off so it's not sharp and pokey. Following the placement of the pipe bombs on January 5, Cole, and he got protective gloves and disinfecting wipes on November 24. So this dude, who apparently doesn't leave much, bought a lot of things. He did some DoorDash. Grandma Loretta said he doesn't leave much, just goes down to 7-Eleven. This dude's at the Home Depot like every week. Following the placement of the pipe bombs, he continued to make purchases of components. For example, on January 21, 2021, after the pipe bombs were left, he went and got another kitchen timer and 2 more 9-volt batteries from Walmart. That's weird. Then on January 22nd, 2001, he went and bought more pipes. He went and got some more steel wool. Then in January 22nd, now Biden is sworn in, he purchases 2 different kinds of 9-volt distributor, 9-volt battery clips, again, from Micro Centers. Just going around, he buys some more alligator clips. Now, so he's got this whole list of, all of the ingredients necessary he's bought. Now, since at least early January 5, Cole has also been the user of a specific telephone number associated with a cell phone. It's called the Cole cell phone. Now, this is interesting. The FBI obtained historical cell site records that were associated with cell towers located in the immediate vicinity of the RNC and the DNC for the relevant period on January 5th, which is weird because they told us that those records were corrupted. Historical cell site records associated with cell towers provides location data for cell telephones at specific points when the cell phone engages with the tower. These can include voice calls, text messages, other data. Transactions involving data usage can include a user's active use of the phone, navigating a web page, and during a passive use of the phone. So we've got active and passive, such as when an application on the phone refreshes data in the background. So, right, putting your defense attorney cap on, if you're a DoorDash driver and you're driving up and down Washington, D.C., your phone is going to ping the towers. Records obtained from the cell phone provider that provides service to Cole included historical cell site records associated with the location of the devices on the provider's network. Provider's records included location data for devices on its network and everybody who was using it. Now, remember, they told us that this data was corrupted. We're going to pause on that in a minute, but let's flesh this out a little further. Each of the provider's cell phone towers in the vicinity of the RNC and the DNC have sectors that provide coverage for each particular tower. Each sector of a cell phone tower provides 120 degrees of coverage. Due to real-world conditions and various forms of interference, the actual coverage on any particular day for a particular sector can extend beyond the 120 degrees of coverage or be limited to less than 120 degrees of coverage if something's in the way. Now, for each cell phone tower, historical cell site records show the particular sector that engaged in each transaction. Okay, so you see these towers, and you've got, the panels that are beaming out one direction. So they say, okay, this panel picked up that phone. The FBI Cellular Analysis Survey Team has analyzed the location of the Cole cell phone on January 5. Now, provider records show that the Cole cell phone connected with the provider cell phone towers consistent with, again, right? It's like, it's not showing exactly where he is. It's just saying he could be in this area, of being in the area of the RNC and the DNC on January 5. Again, if you're door dashing through Washington, I'm going to guess that you're going to show on that. The Cole cell phone engaged in approximately 7 data session transactions with provider towers between 7:39 and 8:24. Provider's historical cell site data shows the specific tower for each of these transactions, along with the sector of the tower that engaged in the transaction with the Cole cell phone. Wow, all sorts of data. The 7 transactions between the Cole cell phone and the provider's towers occurred at approximately 7:39, 7:44, 7:59, 8:14, 8:23, 8:24. 2 additional transactions at 7:39. Now, during this time period, the Cole cell phone pinged 5 different sectors on the towers. At approximately 7:39, the cell phone hit tower ending in 23. Faces southeast, 120 degrees from this location, so they're now triangulating this. Another one here at 7:39, the Cole cell phone interacted with another provider ending in 87. That faces east. So this one's facing this way, this one's facing this way. He's pinging off both of them, so he's got to be in between them, right? In the provider's published tower list, here's a footnote, which is the first published listing of this tower. They were wrong, it looks like. So they gave them a list of their towers. One of the towers they said was facing north. In April, the provider updated the direction of this particular sector of the tower as facing east. They said, oh, we gave you the wrong data. That was not north, that's east. They go, oh, really? Well, if it's east now, then it could be anybody between this tower and that tower. Let us look again. So maybe this is what they found. The FBI's drive test conducted in January and February showed results from this particular sector that were consistent with this facing east. The test results, the FBI drove this back in April 21, so this is not new. The drive test results were inconsistent with the sector facing north. So based on all of the info, including the data session, we assessed that the provider's listed information was an error and they corrected it. Okay, so one of the panels on the towers, they said was facing this way, but it was actually facing this way. And that can change the data because you're looking for somebody in between 2 points. The point was invalid. Now it's back on the map. So Cole is also the registered owner. Wait, let's back up. That was the footnote. So again, they're triangulating him. Now they have him at 7:39:32. Then the individual, video surveillance footage shows 7:39:32. Pipe bombs. A person walked past this location westbound, and these are consistent with the coverage area. So now they got his phone. They're pinging it off all the towers. Same thing here. 7:44 interacted with sector B, ending in 87. Video surveillance footage shows that approximately 7:44, the individual who placed the pipe bombs walked east on Ivy Street, also consistent in this area. 7:59, same thing. Boom, Cole's cell phone pings off a tower. Video surveillance footage shows that at the same time, right? So now they're kind of tracing both things in parallel. All right, what's happening with Cole? What's happening on the streets in the video footage? It's looking like they're kind of matching up. 7:59, we get another video. Ding, place the pipe bombs. He walks southbound, southeast. He's on East Street at that time. So somebody's walking, cell towers pinging as the person's walking. At approximately 8:14, the Cole cell phone interacted with provider ending in 111. That faces west. And again, matching video shows at 8:14, the person who placed the pipe bomb was walking right past that Capitol Hill Club and waving to the cops. Remember that one? Right past the Capitol Hill Club. So again, the pinging matches the video. At 8:23 and 8:24, same thing. 600 Pennsylvania Avenue pings off the tower there. see him walking down at 8:18, 1/2 mile east of the last recorded location. The last recorded location is consistent with Sector E. So both things happening in parallel, and they're following the dude down the line. Now, Cole is the registered owner of a Nissan Sentra. Let's pause there and let's take a look at this document, which we had pulled up before and talked about previously here. It's a letter from Ron Johnson. And remember, as soon as Trump came in, Ron Johnson and many congressional and Senate people were demanding answers on the pipe bomber, and they sent a new memo in over to the acting director, Driscoll, before Kash Patel came in. Remember this? This was back February 3rd, and Ron Johnson said, hey, we've been investigating a lot of this. You know, in the course of our investigation, the FBI, apparently you identified at least 5 different instances of security camera footage where the suspect appeared to use a cellular device. Remember? So kind of that matching that we're talking about. In other words, they had the footage. We were looking for the cell data. They just found it and corroborated the two. Kash and Dan did. Now, previously, back in February, Ron Johnson sends a letter to acting director Driscoll. Remember, he was the guy, they was like, what would Driscoll do? They thought he was Jesus. They had challenge coins made up for this guy. It was a total freak show. So then they had to so he's gone, but they sent him a letter before Kash came in. They said, okay, you guys, you had the security footage, and you said you had a cell phone device. And as a result of seeing these two things that we just now matched up, the FBI back then, you requested cellular data associated with mobile devices in the area. Remember, you did that. You tried to identify the suspect. But in June 2023, we learned 2 years later, however, that Stephen D'Antuono, remember him, that total goofball who was at the Washington field office, the former assistant director in charge at the Washington field office, and the official leading the pipe bomb investigation, he came into Congress and he testified to Congress that the FBI got corrupted data from one of the cellular providers. That's interesting. So how come it's not corrupted anymore? In his testimony, D'Antuono even suggested that the corrupted data may have had the identity of the pipe bomber in there. When the old FBI came in, they asked them this question. Hey, Stephen, we received a video of this. The alleged perpetrator uses a cell phone. See that? That produced nothing, right? It's a geofence of the data cell phone records. You got nothing from the geofence, Stephen? FBI said, well, okay, so there's a lot of phone data that came in, okay? Yes, I've seen the same video. I've watched the same video, FBI agent speaking. We put out the same video. It looks like a phone. Was it a real phone? Not a real phone? Was it a ruse? So was the person just sitting there trying to pretend like they're on the bench taking a phone call? We don't know until we find the person, right? And ask them some questions. This is an FBI agent. We did a complete geofence. We have complete data. Well, not complete because there's some data that was corrupted by one of the providers. Okay, not purposely by them, right? It's just unusual circumstance that we have corrupt data from one of the providers. I can't remember now which one, but for that day, which is awful because we don't have that information to search. So could it have been that provider? Yeah, with our luck, you know, with this investigation, it probably was, right? Don't indict me. So maybe if we did have that, you know, that data wasn't corrupted and it wasn't so purposely corrupted. Of course, it wasn't purposeful. So that it's painful for us to not have that. So we looked at everything, says the scrambling Stephen D'Antuono. Like, it's a real bummer. We didn't get that, you know? Says, and I asked you, okay, Stephen, okay, stop being hysterical for 2 seconds here. And I asked you, was there an effort to use geofencing, to use the data to identify the suspect or to track the suspect like Kash and Dan just did apparently? Because we see in the video then, it looks like that they're using a phone. And can you tell me, Steve, you said that there was some data that was lost or corrupted by the telecom provider? What? He says, yeah, my understanding was that we could try to get cell phone data from those days from everyone, right? Like every carrier, like T-Mobile, like I don't want to like name. He says, right, all of them, like all of them, get them. Yeah, all of them, right? That's what we do, FBI. And so these questions, you know, did you do this? Yeah, we did, okay? We did them, all right? There was one provider, I can't remember, and I don't want to speculate as to the provider, but there was one provider that the data for, I believe, J5 and possibly J6 was corrupt. And we couldn't get it. Okay, that's really convenient. What was your reaction when they told you that you can't get the data because it's corrupt? What was your thought, FBI agent Steve, who's running the whole office? Here's what this guy says. He says, oh, what my response? Oh, great. You know, that's wonderful, right? That's like, it really screws everything up, right? Because that's you. He's like, he can't even speak. You hope to have all the data, right? As an investigator, you want all the data. But things happen in investigations. This has happened before with bank statements or bank account information or corrupted data or email servers, whatever. You know, things happen, right? And it's just like, oh, Jesus, you know? No, it's not like that, okay? It's not like you just throw your hands up in the air because your ice cream scoop fell off the cone, okay? It's a bigger deal. Oh, well, yeah. So according to the January 2nd House report, the Committee on House Administration sent letters to all the major cell carriers to verify his testimony. And they responded and they said, yeah, no, we just screwed it up. Sorry. To confirm what happened in response to this, all three major carriers reportedly indicated that they neither provided corrupted data to the FBI nor received any notification from the FBI of any issues accessing the data. And then there was another report that somebody was trying to copy and paste it and screwed it up. So on October 16th, the House subcommittee sent a letter to the FBI. Hey, did you guys receive corrupt data from one of the companies? And what did the FBI do in response? According to the report, the FBI never responded to the letter. Yeah, because they didn't want to find this dude for whatever reason. So they sent a letter. Please respond back over here to us once you get some more information. But now, apparently, they have the data. So the Cole data is now back in possession of the FBI. So, okay. Now here is how it wraps up. The FBI has analyzed Cole's purchase history associated with the accounts. So like 9 credit card accounts and a bunch of purchases between January 18 and 21. And if you're in construction, man, if you do anything related to any of this stuff, like I used to build swimming pools. So we weren't using alligator clip wires for anything like that in, 9-volt batteries for much of anything. But we were buying galvanized pipe all over the place constantly, end caps and all sorts of things. So it's like, if he had some explanation for it, maybe that would undermine the need for those items or the need to see any suspicion with those items. But if not, then it is kind of random why you're just randomly buying those. But this is essentially, let's finish. Cole made a total of 5 purchases within the DC area. January 13th, January 16th, October 31st, 19, December 5, and December 14th. So this dude was plotting this pipe bomb all the way back in 2018. He was rounding up and buying equipment. Approximately 3 weeks before the pipe bombs were placed, on or about December 14th, Cole made a purchase at a restaurant also located in Washington near 1st and D Street. So like he knew the area. The restaurant is located across the street from the entrance to the Rumsey Court. And so in conclusion, for all the reasons we think that there was probable cause here on J5, Cole placed the pipe bombs outside of the RNC and the DNC in violation of U.S. law. I declare under penalty of perjury this information provided above is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. Respectfully submitted by the FBI. And so that's it. And it's pretty dang light. I mean, to be honest with you, all that they're doing is connecting a cell phone to him. And the cell phone could have been in anybody's hands. I mean, it didn't have to be in his hands. Anybody else could have had that cell phone. He could have been door dashing, driving through the area. The fact that he had dinner at a restaurant nearby is not enough. So it's a cell phone that's, bouncing around. Could be very coincidental, or could have been him walking on the street. But again, the cell phone is, correlation. It's not, we can't prove that it's him. It just sounds, like it's very similar. It's circumstantial. Well, if somebody's walking here and the cell towers are pinging off here, but it doesn't mean that this Cole person was that person walking down the street. It could have been, somebody could have had his cell phone or spoof the number or whatever, or maybe the data was actually corrupted and somebody's backfilling it with something because the FBI couldn't find the data in the first place. And now suddenly they have it all, apparently. And there was a slight correction in there in the footnote, but that's that. And the other evidence, it's not forensic evidence at all. They just went through his receipts essentially, and they just looked at what he'd purchased and said, well, these are the pipe bomb materials, but as it stands right now, and there's going to be a lot more to come. Okay, so it's always like, where's all the evidence? And then it's going to come down later. But as it stands right now, there's just receipts. And there could be plausible explanations for that. There's no evidence that what he actually purchased was used in the pipe bombs. There's no evidence that connects him specifically to that scene based on these purchases. Now, maybe they'll go find all of these other end caps, and then they'll take one of those end caps and they'll trace it back to the pipe bombs, and they'll say, oh, that end cap was made in the same batch as this one. Okay, so he bought two of them, whatever. Okay, he bought them at the same time. So, in other words, you can match the materials and say, it's the same guy, right? He has this in his possession, just like bullets, right? Oh, you've got the other bullets, and you can kind of see where they originated from. So maybe that is something that comes back down. Maybe they get his text messages. Maybe he's colluding with somebody else. And maybe there is actual forensic evidence that ties some DNA match to him, or is a little bit more substantive. But right now, it's basically just receipts, and it's enough, right, to get the search warrants and to bring the charges. But we're hoping for a little bit more than just cell phone geolocation data, which they told us they didn't have, and receipts for some purchases. Now, the one thing I think that makes the purchases a little bit more interesting, ordinarily I have a little bit more skepticism on that, but the fact that they got the two different types of masks, types of caps, the black caps and the galvanized caps. And then he purchased both types, and then both types showed up out there on the field in the scene. But I got a lot of questions about it, because what was the motive? They didn't tell us about any of that. And there's more questions about really what evidence prompted this new discovery. And we still don't really know much about that, other than maybe it's this footnote, which is saying that, but they knew that back in 2021. So we still don't know motive. We still don't know, any social media connections. Remember, if you compare and contrast this to other J6 prosecutions, for example, we covered many J6 prosecutions here because many of them were a joke. What type of evidence did we see for them? Well, we saw things like social media posts, right? If this is some random person, just like some other random J6er, not an intelligence operation or something, right? Wouldn't this guy fit the pattern of other J6ers? Many of whom recorded themselves doing things and posted it on the internet. Many of whom had social media accounts where they were just saying things like, hey, we're going to January 6th, I'm gonna meet you there, right? All the things. In evidence. We had screenshots of their faces, right? You saw the photos. They'd say, oh, we got this guy standing outside the Capitol. We got photo here. Here he is over here. Here's everybody except Ray Epps over here walking up the Capitol. Photo. Then social media posts, then online videos, okay, and all the things. And here we don't have much of any of that. We don't really have anything confirming identity other than mostly circumstantial evidence, which are receipts and cell phone tower pings. So again, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more coming on this. Kash Patel is going to explain. More will be revealed soon. But those are some of the holes that we see just at the outset, which I'm sure they're going to fill. But then we had some other documents that hit. This is the document to unseal the case, of course, which came down today. We already read through the meat and potatoes here. But now, since he's been indicted, charged, and arrested, they unsealed the case. Here's the judge saying you're allowed to file this under seal, of course, and then it became under seal, got unsealed today. And so all of it was sealed originally, all standard boilerplate language here, just articulating, that once he's charged, we're going to unseal all of this, which they have, of course, done. And this was what the government submitted in their motion. So in order to get this sealed, once again, Jocelyn Ballantine, okay, she's the same prosecutor over from California who prosecuted the Proud Boys. And she submitted this one in, just so we have a full kind of docket update here in the Brian J. Cole Jr. case, saying the United States of America now wants to seal this case. We have the right to do it. And here's what happened. On December 3rd, so we get some dates on how this case kind of developed. On December 3rd, the government applied, that was yesterday, for an arrest warrant in this matter. The arrest warrant details and the facts support probable cause that Brian J. Cole Jr. committed 2 crimes in D.C. The warrant references evidence gathered in the course of the investigation. The disclosure of all of this evidence in the affidavit that we just read, it could compromise the integrity of this investigation and prevent us from arresting this dude. So the government has also applied for an omnibus search warrant for items believed to be in his possession. Like, we're going to comb through everything. Premature of a disclosure of this arrest warrant would lead to the destruction of the evidence, and so we need to have it all sealed. Now, there is a presumption of access to court proceedings, but since we're executing a warrant, we need to keep this under seal. A limited sealing will ensure that we can conduct our arrest without tipping him off. Then it can become public later. So in addition, we also move the government to be permitted to disclose the arrest warrant to certain people if we need to extradite him, remove him from, Virginia back up here. The court officials and others, we ask for permission to communicate. The government also respectfully requests the arrest warrant be automatically unsealed when he's taken into custody so that we can read it on a live stream, which we have now done. So all signed and sent in by Jocelyn Ballantine, and Judge Janine Pirro is keeping her in her office, even though she prosecuted the Proud Boys for whatever reason. So we'll keep our eye on her and on that. But the alleged pipe bomber, now arrested, and we're looking forward to learning more about the details. And Kash Patel showed up today with Don Jr. and had a conversation with him, and he says, we're going to see a lot more. Okay, Rob, just chill out, hang tight. Okay, it's all going to be revealed soon. All right, thank you, Kash. Here's what he said on with Don Jr.
So, there's been some, uncertainty, certainly online. So I don't know what's real and what's not. Sometimes it's a little hard to follow. But on when these devices were actually planted, does this arrest crystallize the timeline at all in terms of, the sequence of events that's sort of been, up in the air again, especially online?
It absolutely does. And I don't want to get ahead of the Department of Justice, but you're going to see a crystal clear timeline and picture in the next 24 hours when this individual makes his presentment and first appearance in court and we proceed with the paperwork to his arraignment. That's where key pieces of information are going to be made public for the first time, because that's where key pieces of information legally must be made public for the first time. And we're not going to disrupt that process, because that would hurt the integrity of the investigation. And most importantly, it would hurt the integrity of the prosecution that's upcoming.
All right. So I'm not sure if he's talking about more being unsealed, because he already was arraigned. He already had his initial appearance today. So I think we got the information that he's talking about, but I'm sure more will be revealed soon. But there's more here on this. Chip Roy was talking about Jack Smith and the corruption that has been embedded in our DOJ and FBI for a long time, and really why Christopher Wray, Steve D'Antuono, the J6 committee, the entire FBI and DOJ apparatus couldn't find this guy. Well, it's because they were too busy focused on Trump and weaponizing the entire office to go after their political opponents. Here's Chip Roy explaining how that all went down in the Biden administration, not only in the J6 committee, but with Jack Smith. And remember, Jack Smith prosecuted Trump for J6 for conspiracy against rights, when the real conspirators were the FBI agents.
Yeah, let's talk about weaponization, because the House Judiciary Committee just sent a subpoena to former special counsel Jack Smith, saying that he needs to testify at a closed-door session on December 17th. President Trump also wants him to testify in public. Watch this.
I wondered, for a deposition, I wondered if you'd prefer to see that as a hearing so that the American public can see the questions and the responses more easily.
I'd rather see it probably at a hearing. Look, Jack Smith is a thug. True. He's a failed prosecutor. He's a bad man.
With all due respect, when President Trump said he was spied on back in 2017, nobody cared, right? Congress was like, oh, yeah, right. Now everybody cares, because it wasn't just President Trump. It was all these sitting lawmakers and these regular folks. I mean, Congressman, are we ever going to see any accountability for this massive breach?
Well, certainly, I'm glad you're going to have Jim on, Jim Jordan on at 8 o'clock. Jim's right to subpoena Jack Smith. The amount of abuse is egregious. It's the biggest scandal, certainly in modern times, if not in American history. If you look at the depth and the breadth of the abuse of power by the Biden administration, the Department of Justice, that was directed at President Trump specifically, directed at his administration. And yes, Ron Johnson's right, directed against average Americans with this list that they were targeting people. He's correct. And then obviously targeting senators and members of Congress. The bottom line is we need to pull them in. We need to hold them accountable. We need to expose it to the American people, because it's real. You cannot have an empowered federal government that is abusing power, targeting people for their political beliefs and values. President Trump is the face of that, and he's bringing it to light. God bless him for it.
Yeah, and that's right. They couldn't focus on actual criminals or get to the bottom of some of these nationwide conspiracies because they were busy rounding up J6ers and kicking doors in of pro-lifers. But we now have the photo of Brian Cole Jr. right here, courtesy of the New York Post. And this was one of the photos that was spreading around on the interwebs these days. New York Post saying, unmasked for the first time after the arrest in a resurfaced photo. Accused pipe bomber Brian Jr.'s face was revealed for the first time since he was busted for allegedly planting these explosive devices. Cole's mother shared the smiling picture of him in a blue dress, shirt, and tie on Instagram for National Sons Day in September 2024. This dude right here. It looks kind of tall, more than 3 years after the alleged attempted bombing. So that's what the New York Post is reporting. The Virginia native was busted Thursday morning after the FBI descended on the quiet Woodbridge home. Today's arrest happened because of Trump, said Pam Bondi. She stressed that multiple law enforcement agencies spent months combing through this and more. This is a developing story. That's the photo that just dropped. And let's see if this mom's Instagram will open up. How tall's mom? Because he looks like he's towering over mom. Let's see. Looks like it may have been deleted. I'm not seeing it over there. Or loading. Maybe mom deleted it. Probably deleted it. Anyways, here's what it looks like over there. National Sons Day. Looks like the photos are gone. All right, so don't know. But that's what the New York Post is reporting. This is the guy, Brian Cole Jr. right there. And I don't know how tall mom is, but if mom's 5'4", maybe that's about right. Maybe he's 5'7", maybe. But that's him, according to the New York Post. So we'll see what information is revealed about him and why he allegedly dropped those bombs off near the Capitol. Now, here's more from Thomas Massey. He was asked about this today, and here is what Thomas had to say about the prior FBI who failed and botched this whole thing.
It's somewhat of a distraction from what you all should be reporting on. You should be reporting on the lack of diligence for the last 5 years at the FBI on this investigation, and also a lot of the leads that they had that they let go cold and that they have ignored, and the improbable coincidence of the Capitol Police counter surveillance team that went to 2 pipe bomb locations within 15 minutes of getting out of their car that the pipe bomber had visited the night before. Chad, have you seen any press release from the FBI?
They're going to have a press conference this afternoon.
Okay, great. That's when it would be appropriate to comment.
Okay. But you don't know, but what you heard so far, you don't know if that syncs up with what they're going to say this afternoon.
What I know comes from 2 different whistleblowers.
So it sounds like you're a little suspect of what they might present.
I am a suspect if it doesn't incorporate other facts that I know about. So we'll see. If it's like a single person acting singly without coordination among other people, I am very suspect. Yeah.
And then, sir, just any update from the Department of Justice on a schedule for the release of the files after your bill passed?
Well, they have until December 19th, which is now 15 days away, and it's a Herculean task. They have to put that stuff online. They have to redact it. They have to redact any child sexual abuse material. They have to redact the victims' names, and they have to put it in a searchable format online for the public by December 19th, or else they are violating the law. So I hope they're going to be working overtime over the next 15 days getting that done.
But to be clear, you haven't gotten any updates from the department.
All right, it's Pipe Bomber Day, all right?
We have asked for a very specific update. Attorney General Bondi said that they're opening a new investigation in light of new information. And in my role on the Judiciary Committee, which has oversight over the DOJ and FBI, I have asked for a meeting where they will tell us what that new information is that they discovered that would justify reopening the Epstein investigation.
Can I ask you a couple other questions here? You hear a lot of chatter now about them trying to do something on healthcare in the next couple of weeks. You know how.
All right, so full panoply of questions over there, but we now have an ID on this person, and it's looking like The case will move forward. Of course, we're going to keep our eye on this one. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. Do we have the pipe bomber? More will be revealed. Sounds like Massey is skeptical, but time will tell. All right, now, my friends, I just saw this story break. What a joke this is. So let me share this with you, and then we'll hear from you in a second. But as I was scrolling looking for the photo, I came across this. Letitia James escapes another indictment. So he arrests the pipe bomber, allegedly, and Letitia escapes justice? Oh my goodness, this just happened today. We were talking about this morning on the members only stream. I was waiting to see if she was going to get reindicted and what the strategy was, but it came back. Justice Department on Thursday failed to secure an indictment against Tishy. The grand jury heard the case and said no. Declined. Lindsay Halligan presented the original case on the first go-around, but that didn't happen today. The Justice Department initially vowed to appeal it. We were waiting. Are they going to appeal? Where is it? We didn't see it. But ultimately decided to seek a new indictment. Case was presented in Virginia by different prosecutors. The failure to secure an indictment doesn't bar them from trying again. There should be no premature celebrations. But right now, Tish, man, they're riding high over there. Prosecutors have also been discussing trying to again bring charges against Comey for the same reason. But that just broke. All right, so we got some good news and a little bit of bad news today. We got some updates on the pipe bomber. We're excited about that. We got Tishy Tish apparently escaping another round of charges. But it's been a beautiful stream, my friends, and now it's time to hear from you. Thank you for being here and for joining us. And let's see, we got some comments and some donos in the house. What a nice day it is. Thank you, our friends. Muffin Rando, John, Donut, Mod the Fort Down, clipping for us on the day. We're grateful for you. Here's a couple of, hey, it's American Bald Eagle, baby. Says, happy Thursday, AKA, I mean, Friday Eve, baby. That's from the Eager Eagle. What a great name that is. From the Eager Eagle, shout out. Hey, T Testes says what? Brian Kohlberger? Yeah, like the other murderer? Yeah, although this guy didn't murder anybody, just dropped off some pipe bombs, I guess, that may or may not have blown up. What? Good to see you, T Testes in the house. We got Ospac. Hey, I'm late to this whole thing, but I'd like to know. 1, why was the FBI surveilling the house next to the J6 cop if that person had nothing to do with the bomb planting? Please explain. Well, that one, yeah, so that one was the Metro card, which is part 2. Why did the FBI attach that Metro card usage to the person planting the bombs that was bought by the person in the house next to the J6 cop if this new person is the perp? Please explain. Yeah, and why did the FBI fail to do this work for 5 years? Please explain. Man, they're all great questions, Ospac. And I think as to the first question, it was the Metro card. So they must have gotten their lines crossed somewhere. Okay, so back in this report, the guy's doing the loop-de-loops, and they lost him somewhere, and they say they think he got back on the Metro. Okay, so I don't know exactly where that was, but the person's movement, order of travel, and then you can see 748, 740, 54. He sits on a bench, drops it off. And then over here, 813, 822. So that's sequence 1. Then we've got sequence 2 over here. And then at 822, he bails out. So he comes in this way. Starting at 817, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, maybe from the yeah, and then 824. So that's pipe bomb 1. So it looks like they lost him, right? So they lost him. So they may have thought that the Metro card, and they followed the guy with the Metro card right back to that residence. But then they staked it out. That's where Kyle Seraphin was. Then they, according to them, they validated that that guy had an alibi. He was just taking pictures of the numbered garbage cans or whatever. And so they pulled Kyle off. So why did the FBI attach that Metro card? Because I think they got the Metro card from the video. They followed somebody. They said, who is that person? They tracked the Metro card. The person scanned it at the same time. That's him. Then they went and it's like, no, that guy had an alibi. Why did they fail to do this work? That's the mystery question. And what if the motive was Antifa? right? What if this guy was trying to support the Democrats? Maybe the FBI just says, we're not going to investigate that because it undermines, the Trump supremacy narrative, the Trump takeover insurrection narrative. So if motive comes back and it's not useful to the FBI, I think that's probably a pretty good explanation. But yeah, here's another one. And now they're saying they've got the cell phone data when they said they didn't have the cell phone data. So what happened? Why did the FBI also downgrade the video? Yeah, it was like a potato camera that they used. One frame every 15 minutes. No camera on the planet has that frame rate, except the FBI when they give you the video footage. Why were there 2 Secret Service and 2 Capitol Police so casual when they learn a bomb is 15 feet from them, let the people walk right by it, the DNC camera disabled? Man, so many good questions. Yep. And it is a bummer that the FBI is so untrustworthy that even, when the new team comes out and they're like, we've got all the evidence, you're like, OSPAC, I truly find it a tad concerning that an autistic guy turns out to be the perp. Me too, man. And like what I said, I'd like to see that guy walk around, see what his gait looks like. We've watched that Pipebomber video a bunch, so I think we could get a pretty good eye for that. I'm not saying that he didn't do it, but I think that they may have the trouble explaining why they weren't the person. Yeah, or I mean, is the whole thing going to be he's just like a strange autistic kid? Oh, you can't hold. He didn't know what he was doing. He's got autism. He's just kind of, he's like handicapped in the brain. It's going to use the R word, but so. And then that is a nice little bow on the whole thing. Wrap the whole thing up. No, it's just some crazy person who was unwell, just dropped the bombs, just happened to be on January 6th and the whole thing, So you prosecute him, but everybody has some sympathy for him because it's like, oh, he's just unwell. We have a lot of unwell people. But yeah, and an autistic guy really can't defend himself all that well, right? It's not good. OSPAC. Also, as an electrical engineer, I do find it weird that someone would go to the trouble of buying red and black colored wires, but then use crappy alligator clips as the termination. That said, it's probably my electrical engineer elitism coming through. Yeah, and those are some weird purchases together, right? Like, yeah, I would build swimming pools. Yes, we'd buy wire. Yes, we'd buy galvanized pipe. We'd buy steel wool. We'd buy all of those things, but I generally wasn't buying like an alligator clip or like a kitchen timer, Those are the other things. You add those in, you're like, all right, that's a little bit weird. So until then, you could be doing irrigation and construction. But remember that one like terrorist kid who made that stupid clock? Obama clock kid. Remember that kid? Yeah, Ahmed Mohammed. Remember this little punk who made this little bomb? Remember this guy? And then sent it to his school. And then everybody's like, did you just bring a bomb to school, little Ahmed? Here it is. Sorry, you can't see it. This photo taken by Irving police of the clock. He's like, no, I just made a clock, remember? And they're like, you're going to blow up the school because it looks like this. And so you're buying alligator clips. Maybe you're just making a clock. Maybe this kid got invited to the White House by Obama. Remember that? Obama's like, hey, cool clock, Ahmed. Want to come over? And the whole thing was just, it was trying, I think, to try to create a story by just saying, look at how racist all these Republicans are. So maybe that's what he was doing. Making a clock. Maybe Trump should invite him to the White House. Sheila the Pooh, 1,000,000 hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila, for bringing in 10 new amazing membos. Navy Styles is here. What's up, Nancy Bird? Sue Bryant in the house. Jennifer Gray, welcome. Do laugh. Good to see you. Alvin Fletcher. Donna's here. Simon Beebe. We got Melissa Saracchio. We got Mama Pillow and Howie Brown, all gifted membos, courtesy of our friend Sheila Pooh. 1,000,000 hugs to you. Thank you, Sheila. Welcome, 10 new membo friends. Grab the members only stream from this morning. It was a good one. We had a good time. Premium Biltong over at BiltongUSA.com. You know where to go. And when you go there, use code Robert. You'll save 10% off. All good stuff. U.S. source beef, authentic South African flavor. You're gonna love it. So check it out. BiltongUSA.com. Here's another one. Woo! Also, major breaking. Massive win at SCOTUS. The Supreme Court has upheld Texas's new U.S. House maps, which are set to go into effect. 6-3. Wow, that's huge. Republicans are now going to pick up 5 more seats in the House. Tremendous news. Tremendous news. We'll very likely talk about that tomorrow. Can't wait to get that decision. That should be a good one. And Rob, what's up, Rob? Says, what explosive material did Cole purchase or manufacture to put inside the pipe bombs? They said it was a homemade black powder, which is just 1 part sawdust, just kidding. I don't understand why the Trump DOJ would be in league with the deep state and the Dems and rhinos in terms of covering up for them, and no one can explain it. So, yeah, I'm not sure that Trump is. I think that part of the argument in this argument is that Trump's not in functional control of many of these agencies. So in other words, the deep state is operating right under his nose. He's not in compliance or in cahoots with them. He doesn't even know anything about it. Doesn't even know they exist or what they're doing, because people keep stuff off his desk. I mean, we read this yesterday, Boy Next Door. We saw this in exquisite detail yesterday. There was a Real Clear Politics article that we read through from Paul Sperry, and they walked us through Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, Gina Haspel, John Durham, Bill Barr. Okay, all of the people who were working directly for Trump buried the evidence that would have exonerated Trump on one of the most key issues of all time, which was the Russia collusion hoax. CIA director, all of them. Trump appointed them. Trump vouched for them. Gave them their spots, and they still stabbed him in the back. So people, I think, will see that. They'll say, well, Trump, put Pompeo in there, and then Pompeo did all those things. Trump is just one man, and I think that they keep him in a nice, tight presidential bubble, which is why many of us were like, please get back on Twitter. Please get back on X so you can see the comments. Just read the comments, and then it'll change the policy, because he would come out and he's like, our party's never been more unified. Meanwhile, Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson are stabbing each other in the throats, all day long. You're like, Jesus. And the president just doesn't see it and just kind of talks past it. So I don't think that he's in cahoots with them, but the people who are inside, and we read through that FBI report earlier this week about the TDS that is rampant inside the FBI. It's everywhere. These are government bureaucracies and institutions. So they're just filled with anti-Trumpers and really anti-American people through top to bottom. Okay, there's good people inside, I'm sure, but most of them are not. So even if you have Cash and Dan and Pam and Janine, these are the DOJ, the FBI, they've been around for over hundreds of years. So in order to turn that ship around, it takes a Herculean effort, and Trump is in the middle of it. But again, there's only so much one man can do. And if you're going to have your own CIA director and your own NSA and your own Attorney General, Bill Barr, hide information and pull stuff off your desk, I mean, I think that's treasonous behavior, but I don't know. The president, I don't even know if he knows. Like, does he know? Did he read that report? He should. Woods Precision Arms. You just don't decide to make a bilb. Even as crude as those were, it does take skill and experience. Yeah, maybe he was just making them up as, hobbies or something. He's doing something like, what can you do with galvanized pipe? I was thinking, is he like like making a train conductor kit? Is he making trebuchets? What's going on over there? We don't know. My friends, thank you for sending those in. Amazing donos. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here, subscribing to our channel, and all of the things. We got some locals comments coming in here. Oh, man. Tesla had a head-on collision in Arizona. That doesn't sound good. Prayers up for anybody involved in that accident. Thank you, Londo, for sending that one. And Spud says, was there a second bomber behind the bushes over by the gravelly road? That is one magic pipe. Seinfeld reference from Spuds. Was that like a loogie, like a magic loogie? Don, what's up? Brian Cole seems a lot like Tyler Robinson and Thomas Matthew Crooks. Loner, possibly recently radicalized. Who was his handler? Yeah, it feels weird. And Grandma Loretta saying that there's some autism there certainly feels a little bit strange too. Hardened Patriot, yep, declines to indict New York Attorney General Tishy Latish. Man, watch her not get indicted, and Comey not get indicted. Not going to be good. The Veil, hey Rob, I'm confused. This guy puts together the pipe bomb, but it's the woman who delivers the bomb? No, so the woman apparently was not accurate. And are we to understand that these two, the woman and the man, were working together for the pipe bomb threat? No, they're just saying it's only the man. The second part about the electrical engineer pointing out the crappy parts, I wonder now If the FBI is setting up the guy so the FBI female favorite employee of the year goes free. You're talking about a patsy, right? So Steve Baker and the Blaze were a little too on the nose. They were getting a little too hot for comfort. So then they're like, oh, I know what we can do. Let's go find an autistic kid who buys a bunch of crap at Home Depot for his toy collection or whatever, and we'll charge him with the crimes. Christina says, my theory is the CIA is his handler. Yeah, the woman who was hugging the puppies, even though there was only one puppy. I make bookcases with galvanized pipe. Yeah, there you go, Spuds. There you go. I've seen those. Those are actually pretty cool. The ones that look like they're kind of coming out of the wall, right? Galvanized pipe coming out. Bookcases. Yeah, that makes total sense. Why wouldn't you? Yeah, and the furries and Crooks, who's got no online profile at all. Nobody's ever heard of the dude. Very strange. But we're happy that there is a case filed. So at least there's something to latch onto, right? Something that we can see new documents filed, piece together what they actually have, and see what this guy's defense is, and see if there's any truth to these autism claims. Is he mentally competent? Is the court going to find that he's capable of, helping in his own defense, assisting in his own defense? Or will they make a psych eval? Lots to learn. Lots to learn. Hey, Jonah Finn. Hey, been eyeing that empty space over your right shoulder since you set up the studio. My right shoulder. Up here? It would be a nice spot for a wedding photo, like the dip picture. From Jonah Finn. When I was dipping her? That was a deep dip. Your boy went all the way down. And it was good. So it was a good one. So I could put that up like back over here when it's not Christmas season, because this kind of balances it out. It's good advice, Jonah Finn. I have no idea what I'm doing, so I appreciate the assistance on that. Otherwise, it would be a disaster back there. Alexis helped with this. This is why it looks as good as it does. Yeah, it looks like the same guy. Oh, it does. Oh, it's the Clock Bomber. Oh, Little Mahmood. Same guy. All right. So, hey, if you are painting, just buy black iron. If you're painting, just buy black iron. If you're going to paint it, then you don't need the galvanized. Yeah, Rob watched way too much Seinfeld, says John McGarvey. That is true. Way too much. But it was worth it. And 90s movies, too. Like Die Hard. But they were good. They're worth it. So anyways, all right, my friends, we're going to leave it there on the day. It has been a beautiful stream. Thank you for joining us. Membos, grab the stream from this morning. And then, of course, we'll be back. He knows exactly what he's doing. What's up, E-Boopster? Christina, good to see you. Let's say hello to our friends before we wrap it up. Hyphen, Common Sense. What's up, Dan Sundin? FCH over on the Rumbles. Bill Tong's over there. What's up, buddy? 1205. Yeah, Common Sense says F. Pompeo. Preach, brother. Jim Ma says, oh, somebody else might run for Senate. Good stuff over there. Donut, thanks for clipping over there. And our friends, it has been a beautiful stream. So we'll come back tomorrow. We'll see what the rest of the week has in store. It's going to be a Friday. We're excited about that. And we may have a nice SCOTUS decision to read. It sounds like Jeffrey Adams says, SCOTUS rules Texas redistricting map good to go for 2026. A 6-3 decision. So the 3 lefty judges all very upset about that. That whole thing was a total scam. That lower level Judge Brown should be added to the impeachment list. Maybe we should start one. Rob, they indict Trump for a fake crime, but won't indict James for a real crime. Sick. No one is above the law. Question? No. Democrats are clearly above the law. And if you're on the right and you oppose the Democrats, you are below the law. Illegal aliens get more privileges and benefits and due process and presumption of innocence than you do. If you're a Trump lawyer, you're like the worst. But if you're an illegal alien who traffics minors through our state, FBI will let you go under the old one. So we're riding the ship. It's a big ship. It's going to take some time, but we're excited to be on the journey, and we're grateful for having you here to join us. What's going on, The Veil? Good to see you, The Veil. Yeah, we got that one. Rob G. Fan. Hey, man, good to see you. Don't you find it peculiar that all of a sudden, after Steve Baker's reporting comes out, the FBI catches the bomber? I do. It is very convenient. And who helped her former employees. I trust Steve more. Sorry. I think a lot of people are with you. And honestly, this is a real bummer for the FBI because even this FBI, it's like if they're going to come out and give us all whiplash on the Epstein files, come out, oh, we're going to give you, and then nothing, and they release a memo. There is no one to charge. There is no additional evidence. Then they come back. They're like, well, just wait one more minute. There might actually be some evidence. We're like, what the hell's going on over there? So then they come out and they have a case that looks, pretty solid. They've got some cell phone records. They've got some credit card receipts. Okay. Everybody's like, you're right. Go get us the real bomber. We know who it was. So we'll see. Obviously, not every case the FBI brings is going to be a conspiracy, corrupt prosecution, but we want to validate and make sure that the people they have are the people that they should have, because we've seen historically when they've gone after people they should not have. And this case would be very convenient to just wrap up, especially if there's a CIA asset that they're trying to distract you away from over here. No, we got him. We're sure you did. So we'll see. As I said, I think there are some things that kind of stand out, like the end caps. For some reason, it's like, okay, that kind of, it feels like a little bit corroborative. So I'm sure there will be a lot more to come down. Either way, we're hopeful that they got the guy and that this leads to more evidence about the broader conspiracy that we all know existed. And we will be here to continue to cover it. So thank you for joining, my friends. Thank you for subscribing if you haven't already done that. Jonah Finn says, table. Funny how the no experience prosecutor secured a true bill, but this AAG couldn't. Yeah, that's right, Jonah Finn. Yeah, they keep saying this thing, no experience. And experience does not translate to capability. You can have all the experience in the world losing repeatedly. Doesn't mean you're any good at it. So it's about the type of experience and can you deliver results? And many of these lifers in the bureaucracy just can't, which is why we were very happy to have people without experience come in, because we wanted a fresh set of eyes. And that may have resulted in this development today. New eyes come in, they take a look, they find a new prospective criminal, and we get progress. Good news. Tremendous. Hey, speaking of the impeachment list, it's been a long time since we've had an impeachment party. It's true. It's been a long years. That was like one of the first things we did. Tremendous. Remember when they were impeaching Trump the first time? We're like, look how easy it is. You can make up whatever you want. We impeached like a bunch of people on this channel. It was great. It was fun. Let's create a judicial impeachment list in the morning from the Veil. It's a long list, man. We got a lot of work to do on that, but it sounds like a good idea. Maybe if we did that and just shipped it over to Congress, they would take some action. Maybe that'd be helpful. Hey, dummies, we made the list for you. Here's the form. Here's the filing. Here's the House resolution. Just go do it. We made multiple copies for you. Here, we did it all for you. Make it nice and easy for them. They still wouldn't do it. All right. So my friends, let us leave it there. It's been a beautiful Thursday. We're coming back tomorrow. It's going to be a Friday. We're excited about that. Not here yet, but it will be soon. And we'll be here to get into it again. Before we wrap it up, let's see. Do we have any comments over on X on the day? And then we'll leave it there. We do have a couple of comments on X. How about this? From Darby Shaw. Rob, it's almost a Friday. Janine Pirro, whom I adore, is like the little chihuahua that thinks she's a Rottweiler, except Judge Janine Pirro is the Rottweiler. Well, I didn't know where that was going in there. But she's tough, man. Great things sometimes come in little packages. And we shout out to our short kings and queens out there. Janine Pirro just barely looking over the podium. We got him. Hey, Ellen McGuire, yawn. Tired of lying legal filings. You and me both, Ellen. There's a lot of that. Hey, Jimmy Johnson says law enforcement officials use credit purchases of bomb-making materials, cell phone tower data, and a license plate reader to zero in on Cole, according to an FBI affidavit filed in on the case. From Jimmy Johnson. Thank you, Jimmy. Good stuff. And Lady Celine. What's up, lady? Lady Celine, great to see you. Thank you for the comment over there on X as well. And my friends, great to have you over there and here. Very appreciative of you joining us as we go through all of this and more. So we'll pause here for the day. Before we wrap it up, we want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths who mod the fort down for us and keep things nice and orderly around here, including Donut Mind Me. We got John in the house. Muffin Rando, K-Bean, Carrie B, of course. We have Neuro D, Janik, Dog Digger, Geegum Geegum, Just Rhonda, and Elliot all helping out around here, keeping things oh so nice and beautiful. And as we rounded out, one old guy's opinion said, I remember the days of the Unabomber. There was not so much of this, why this, or what about that? The internet is becoming more of a curse than a blessing. I miss just living my life without all the static. Well, man, that is an interesting comment from one old guy. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I think, now everybody can have various opinions, and it's a lot harder to get consensus out of a society when you have a multivariate set of opinions. But I think we also get to truth more in that way. And it used to be everybody just turned into the 3 cable stations and listened to Walter Cronkite or whatever. And that's the facts. That's the day. But I think ultimately we were lied to. We got a lot of lies that were shoved down our gullets. So, my suggestion is, of course, like anything, if it's becoming too much, just unplug, unplug. And we try to do that on Sundays, just to unplug, just to give our brain a break from the politics and get away from it all. But yeah, there's a much simpler way to live. You can just unplug from politics completely. A lot of people advocate that. I do not. I don't appreciate that at all. I think we have a responsibility as citizens to be actively informed and engaged in our government. If you want to be led by a government of the people and by the people and for the people, then we have to be of the government. We have to demand that. Otherwise, they'll just govern us according to whatever they want. So I get it, man. It's a lot. And I've talked to some other friends about this, like, people, how can you talk politics all day as much as you do? So, well, I'm passionate about liberty. I don't know what to tell you. But there are other countries that don't have this. Like, I have a friend from Canada. He's like, he thinks I'm crazy. He's like, I never pay attention to politics at all. And I'm like, well, that's very convenient for you. You have America to do that for you. We have to worry about politics for the whole friggin' planet because you guys are busy up there killing ostriches and killing yourselves or whatever. So just sit down and let the adults handle this. But I get it, man. It is toxic, and, it can become grating on all of us. Well, I get it, man. One old guy, thank you for the dono. Hey, see the veil. This is a cat tip. Says, long ago, exactly 1 cat died from being fed 4 minutes past feeding time. I know. We will never forget. And cats have told their children of this for 3,000 generations, lest it never happen again. It was a horrific thing. You probably read about it in the book of Catsesis in the Bible. 1 cat died 4 minutes past their feeding time, and now the rest of us have to live in misery for all eternity because of that 1 cat. Anyways, my friends, what a beautiful day it is. Let us leave it there on the day. Rob G. Fan. Yeah, it's also interesting how tall of a sudden Muriel Bowser is such a help, since she kind of caused it all from Muriel Bowser. Yeah, and she's not running again. Like, she's retiring or not resigning, but she's not running again. So Bowser will be out. Could have fixed this whole thing if she would have just accepted Trump's offer to send the National Guard in there. But they were having it both ways. They said if Trump sent the National Guard in, he was going to take over D.C. And then he didn't send the National Guard in because he was going to take over D.C. Spuds, remember the condo loan fraud case against Tish? It's still pending in New York. Yeah, that includes Staten Island, Red, Nassau, and Suffolk counties. I think I swore right there. Spuds, great to have you. We might have to discuss the book of Enoch one day. Oh, my goodness. I know that Joe Rogan and Representative Anna Paulina Luna are into it. Boopsy, what's up? Well stated, Rob. Thank you, Boopsy. Good to have you here, Boopsy. What's up, John? Comments on Candace? Yeah, there's a lot of drama going on right there between her and Turning Point. We'll see if the live stream comes to fruition. Hopefully it does. But locals, friends, great to see you. Thank you for being here. See the veil. Shine that big, beautiful meatball, baby, of justice. The meatball of justice. Good to see you. Okay, so let us pause here. It's been a beautiful stream. Happy Thursday, my friends. We're coming back tomorrow. It's going to be Friday. We're excited about that. But until we're back here, I want to wish you the most peaceful and pleasant and beautiful rest ever. I hope you come back tomorrow to join us as we get into it again, because in order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very, very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through the scripted ruse. Together we are watching the watchers, shining the light. Watching the watchers, defending what's right. Watching the watchers.